They're one West. They're one West. They're one West. They're one West. They're one West.
Discussing whether or not Gentiles can be saved, and obviously I am of the opinion that biblically speaking, of course Gentiles can be saved, the non-Israelites, and I'm talking about non-Israelites, Gentiles according to the flesh, Cap. So, as a Christian, I believe that Jesus is not just for the Israelites, but he was for the entire world. The Israelites first, then the rest of the nations. And so that's my position, and that's what we're going to be getting into. Let's rock.
That's your opening?
Yeah, just
Alright, go ahead.
you didn't tell me to break everything down.
Yeah, he's
Like, you want me to break something down?
all right. My position on Gentiles is Gentiles always have context. So he's right when he says that Christians believe that Gentiles, meaning non-Israelites, can be saved. My position is that Gentile is only any scripture that's referring to Gentiles, strangers, heathen, XYZ on the subject of salvation is only talking about Israelites. Biblically speaking, the word Gentile just means going or nation. So by proxy, Israel would be a nation, so they can be called Gentile. You can see that in Genesis 25 and 23, for example. So my position is just to show and prove that the promises of salvation was only given to the children of Israel, and if I can add, only the children of Israel are the children of God, and that's the only one that can get the promises or salvation. With that, I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's go ahead and kick it off, man. So I guess I'll start it off with a question just like last time. I like that smirk, man. I like the smirk. I like the smirk.
I know you. Listen, I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna be like, yeah, he done learned. Then I'm gonna be the father. You gonna be the son.
That's good. That's good.
Bars. Bar guy. Shout out to my man.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you an apron. I'm gonna send you an apron. So, okay, so when it comes to the...
It don't sound, it'll get the same effect.
No, it's, you know, I got my own little...
Yeah, no, I know you got your own little thing.
So with the non-Israelites, you're saying that non-Israelites cannot be saved. This salvation is only for, you know, Israelites, born Israelites, you know, Israelites that are of the seed of Abraham, physically.
Yeah, physically.
Okay, so... How do you interpret then, I guess, Romans 11? Obviously, it talks about how the Jews are the natural branches that were cut off, and then the wild olive was grafted in, and how they're not of Israel. As a matter of fact, he even starts off with saying, now to you Gentiles, I say to you. Right? At first, he was speaking to the Israelites earlier in the chapter, and then now he's speaking to the Gentiles, who were not the natural branches. So I would obviously think that they were non-Israelites.
That's what you would think. The subject matter of Romans the 11th chapter is, has God cast away his people? We agree, right?
Correct.
And he says, God forbid.
Yes.
Then the ending verse in Revelation, in verse 26, it says, and so all Israel shall be saved as it is written. We agree, right?
Say that again, sorry.
In verse 26, Romans 11 and 26, it says, and so all Israel shall be saved as it is written. Mm-hmm. We agree there, right?
Yes.
So how could the subject be about non-Israelites when the conclusion of everything that he says so all Israel shall be saved? It doesn't say all nations shall be saved.
I agree. I don't think that all nations will be saved, because not all nations will come into belief. But it specifically talks about how the Israelites were cut off. The natural branches are the Israelites, and they're cut off. And then so now the wild branches that are not originally part of the natural tree are now grafted in. Now the Israelites are the natural are part of the natural branches, and so the unnatural ones, or the wild ones, obviously will be non-Israelite Gentiles.
No, because the most important part, the reason why it's called a wild olive tree, is because this tree doesn't look like all trees. Because when you first go to Romans 11, before we get to the wild olive tree, I want to start at verse 13, if you don't mind. It says, for I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I'm the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my foot. The 11th chapter, that wild olive tree is then being allowed to be grafted back in.
Okay. So, just reading this here. So it says, but if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although a wild olive shoot, were grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing root of the olive tree. Do not be arrogant toward the branches. If you are, remember, it is not you who support the root, but the roots that supports you. Then you will say, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. That is true. They were broken off because of their unbelief. But you stand fast through faith, so do not become proud, but fear, for if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. So these are not natural branches. They were never part of the tree in the first place, but now they're being grafted in. They're not natural to the tree.
That's not true. And context and listening is an art. And he never answered verse 16. It says, for if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. Those other branches are never attached to the root. When the branches get broken off, that's why in the metaphor, it talks about them being grafted back into a wild olive tree. Jeremiah 11:16 that I just spoke about, that he did not answer, also speaks about the Lord bringing a fire to that same olive tree. So then
where does it say that they're being grafted back in? The wild.
That would say then, I'm sorry, if some of the branches, in verse 17, if some of the branches are broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, the tree is talking about the first fruit be holy, and the lump that is also holy, and the root. That's the tree. Yeah. And so then it says, and thou being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree. Yeah. Boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root. What this is talking about is Judah and Israel, or if you want to say northern kingdom and southern kingdom, some people say that. Because when Christ was on the scene, Christ said, I'm not sent but into the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Right. The tribes of Israel as a nation was not there. They were cut off. Another excellent example is the prodigal son. In the prodigal son, you had the two sons. The two, you always notice it's always in twos, because you had northern kingdom and southern kingdom. So the northern kingdom gets kicked out. He's wallowing himself in the swine. And when he comes back to the house and is accepted of the father, who's angry about that? The son that stayed. And so Judah didn't want didn't want his brother to come back. Isaiah 11:13 is another example when it says the envy of Judah and the vexation of Ephraim shall go away. So in verse 26, which is what I asked earlier, when it says, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written. The subject is about Israel not being cast away, according to the first verse. Verse 13, when it says, 14 rather, when it says, I provoke the emulation, them which are my flesh, that's found in Romans 9:4. Them are my flesh who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the services, and the promises. So this, okay, I got you. So when you said I didn't answer about 16, I feel like I did, because when you said that they're being grafted back in, but in this context it doesn't say that. They were never part of the natural tree to begin with. So that's what I'm saying here when it says, but if some of the branches were broken off, and you, although a wild olive shoot, were grafted in, these people were not broken off of this tree in the first place. They're being grafted into the tree and now taking part in the nourishment. So you have the natural branches that were cut off before, and now there's room for the unnatural branches to be grafted in. Like when you bring up, like you said, Judah and who else was it? Ephraim. Israel, I think I said Israel.
Yeah, Israel. And so Judah and Israel. Is Judah and Israel both part of the natural tree?
Until he burned it. In Jeremiah 11 chapter, which I just read, he separated. He kicked out the whole northern kingdom. He kicked out 9 tribes.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Yeah. What did those 9 tribes become?
They became the other kingdom.
No. When they got kicked out, what did they become?
What context are you talking about?
So in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, when he kicked out the northern kingdom, and so they kicked out as a nation. So Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, Gad, Naphtali, etc. What did they become when they got kicked out of Israel?
I don't know.
That's the Gentiles that it's talking about.
Damn right. What does it mention that they're the Gentiles?
That's right.
Where does it say they're the Gentiles?
Okay, so let me give you a prophecy.
Where does it say they're the Gentiles?
the word Gentile means nation. We agree, right?
Yeah, but you're saying that no. So I'm saying that the Gentiles biblically are non-Israelites.
No, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the
even
Bible.
in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, to say Gentiles are usually non-Israelites.
Yeah. So my question is, where does it call them? Where does it identify them as the Gentiles?
This context. If you listen to my opening statement, Gentile just means nation.
So where are they called the Gentiles?
So I'm gonna break it. So I'll give you an example. This is Genesis 48. Since you want to know exactly where.
That's a different one. So.
No, it's right on the subject.
Okay.
It's right on the subject because this is prophecy. Genesis 48, when Jacob was talking, or Israel was talking to Joseph, and he blessed Ephraim. This is what he said to Ephraim. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He shall become a people, and he shall also be great. But truly his younger brother, which is talking about Ephraim, shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. That word in the Greek or Hebrew would be Gentile. So now, right here, we're reading Jacob or Israel tell Joseph that his son would become a multitude of nations or multitude of Gentiles. So can you show me what nations did they become?
Well, actually, that ties in with the covenant that's given to Abraham and how he will be a father of many nations. And how is it? Because the Bible says that it's through faith that Abraham was made a father to many nations.
That's not answering my question.
It is answering your question.
What nations did no? What nations did they become? What nations did they become? They're not called Ephraim. So what nations did they become?
The church. They're believers. They're the
what
church.
Nation did they become?
They're the church.
Yeah, I hear this. He don't know what nation, right?
They're the church. See, you can do all this all you want, but you're not answering my question. You didn't tell me.
I'm answering your question. I'm telling you, the Gentiles in Romans the 11th chapter. Romans the 11th chapter. It says, "So all Israel shall be saved." Yeah. Because Northern Kingdom Israelites.
Yeah, but are they the natural branches? Was my question.
They were natural till the branches were broken off.
I got it.
Were they broken off according to Jeremiah the 11th chapter? Were the branches broken off?
Yes, and this
okay.
But this is I'm not disagreeing that there's some that the Israelites were broken off. Here's where we disagree here. You're saying that the wild one, right, that's being grafted in, you're saying that they were part of the tree in the first place, but then got broken off and now they're being brought back in. It doesn't say that. It says that it says they were wild and they were never part of the tree in the first place.
That's not what that's saying. That's what you're lying about. That's not what it's saying.
It literally says because of their disbelief.
If it was about other nations, it wouldn't say, and so all Israel shall be saved.
No, that's not.
It would say all nations shall be saved. This argument is that nations can be saved. This is why I say the word Gentile always has context. Okay. So it says, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn ungodliness away from Jacob. It doesn't say turning ungodliness away from everyone.
Well, but that's in that verse. You're still quote minded. We're talking
I'm not
about
quote minded. Yeah, I'm context minded.
But you're not because you're going to another verse that has nothing to do with this right here. Of course, in talking about Jacob, we know that God's going to bring back Jacob. He has a remnant. We already know about that.
When it says, so I'll go directly.
Hold on. Let me land this. When we're talking about here, the wild
verse 17,
branches,
right?
Yes, the wild branches. But if some of the branches were broken off, talking about the natural branches, right? And you, although a wild olive shoot, the Gentiles.
No, that's where we disagree.
But it literally says, I'm speaking to you Gentiles. That's literally how he starts off. Right. Look, he says in verse 13, now I'm speaking to you Gentiles.
When I'm saying you, I'm not saying that he's not talking to Gentiles.
Okay.
The you in verse 17 is talking about the first fruit and the lump. So in verse 16, when it says, for if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. The root is the tree.
Right.
The branches is what's breaking off the tree.
That's right.
And so now when it says, and if some of the branches be broken off that same tree, that's the root.
Right.
And then thou being a wild olive tree, the thou is that root or that tree that is now wild because the branches is broken off. The branches are being put back on the same tree. That's why it's called a wild olive tree.
You can't say that it's called a wild olive tree if it was part of the natural tree in the first place. It's not wild. It's natural. Look, hold on. It does make sense because look, here's the distinction. There's two things being called out here. You got the natural and you got the wild. These are the two identifiers that we have in Romans 11.
That's so you're saying.
No, okay. Let me see here. Right. Now I'm speaking to you Gentiles. Inasmuch then as I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry.
Right.
In order somehow to make my fellow Jews jealous.
Okay,
so
what version? What are you reading
this
right
is,
now?
This is ESV.
Okay, I don't read the ESV. I'm going to read the KJV. It's more accurate, and I'm going to read the same verse that you read. It says, now I speak, for I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I'm the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office, if by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. So now, if you want to make these Gentiles be non-Israelites, who's Paul's flesh in this verse?
Well, so here's my question.
I answered your question. I need my question.
No, you didn't answer. You just gave me another question.
No, I didn't. What question did I answer?
I'll deal with it.
No, I don't want you to deal with it.
Okay.
Tell me what question I didn't answer.
So the question that you didn't deal with was him speaking to the Gentiles and the distinction he makes with the wild branch and the natural.
Okay, so now I'm going to respond to that directly.
Okay.
I'm telling you the Gentiles is Israelites. So now I'm answering that question. And I'm telling you that in verse 16, the lump and the holy and the root and the branches are all the same. And in 17, and if some of the branches are broken off, is the same branches that was broken off according to Jeremiah 11th chapter, and the thou being a wild olive tree is the root of verse 16. So now I've clearly answered your question. So now I need my question answered. Who is the emulation of them which are his flesh to Paul?
Okay, so
according to Scripture.
So these are the Israelites. So now
they who?
They're Israelites of his flesh, right? Oh, that's good. That's good. So if he's talking about the Israelites, that's the ones he wants to make jealous, correct?
No, that's the one that he wants to save. That's why you can't read that raggedy ass ESV. Romans 11. Romans 11 and 14 says.
I'm using what you just read. You just read.
I didn't read jealous.
You said emulation, right?
I said
that's another word for jealousy.
No. If I may by any means provoke the emulation to them that are my flesh,
yes, so
and might save them.
Who are his flesh?
I'm glad you said that.
No. Just answer straight up. Who's the flesh?
Can I read the scripture?
It's right here.
Right.
Who are Israelites?
Thank you. So his flesh are the Israelites, and who's he's talking to?
He's talking to Israelites.
No, it says he's talking. No, all right. So now it's my turn. It says that he's talking to Gentiles.
But what I'm saying is he's talking to. I'll be done with this so you can understand. When I say Israelites, the Gentiles in Romans the 11th chapter are Israelites. But I don't want you to be confused.
No, I understand what you're saying, but here's where the conflation is. When you say that the ones that he's bringing to emulation and wanting to save are of his flesh, which you said are the Israelites, that means he's talking to non-Israelites about his brothers. So he's saying about the Israelites to the Gentiles that God, in order to provoke them to jealousy or emulation so that some of them may be saved, has grafted you, non-Israelites, into the tree so that they may be provoked. That's the whole point.
Here's how that's a lie. Hey, Shemaiah, here's how that's a lie. Because when it comes to save, he says, and so all Israel shall be saved. Through emulation.
Through what? What's
I'm going right to the emulation.
Okay.
The emulation and save some of them of his flesh, they're rejecting the Israelites in Rome. The whole argument in Rome, Galatia, Cappadocia is that if they could be Israelites, but they ain't circumcised on the 8th day, they can't come back home. So when we go back, the reason why I reference Romans, the 9th chapter, Romans the 9th chapter help you understand Romans the 11th chapter. Let's read it. Romans 9:4. Who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption? Now, ain't no other nation can get adopted now. Because this just said Israel pertain the adoption, the glory.
Them first.
It don't say them first. It says who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the services of God, and the promises. That's what the scriptures say. Whose fathers and of whom is concerned in the flesh Christ came. Now it's saying Christ came for the Israelites.
Can you finish that verse though?
Which one? Verse 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna read a couple more verses, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no.
Who is over all, God blessed forever.
Who is over all who?
Who is over all?
Who?
God blessed forever.
Jesus is over all, God blessed forever?
This says, for who the flesh Christ came, who is all, and God is blessed forever. They ain't saying Jesus is God. That's all.
Come on, Cap. Come on, Cap. Come on, Cap. They call him God over all, man.
No, it's not. God is over all, but he ain't Christ.
That's the last
so now, that's the last to be crazy as hell. So now, verse 6 says, neither as though the word of God have taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. So being in Israel doesn't make you Israel, meaning living in the land.
No,
so now,
that's not about the land.
Let's keep going to see if I'm right or you're right.
Okay,
let's keep going.
Let's go.
Verse
so
7
being of
says,
Israel doesn't make you of Israel.
What
right?
we're about to read eliminates every nation. Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children.
That's right.
But in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Verse 8, that is, they which are the children of flesh, these are not the children of God.
That's right.
So anybody that's the children of the flesh are not children of God. But the children of the promise are counted for the seed. So Edomites, Moabites, Jebusites, Canaanites, Ammonites, Ishmaelites, none of them are the children of God.
And so now,
According to what we read.
okay, can I respond to this?
Go ahead.
Okay, because that was a lie what you just said, and I say that respectfully. Why?
You just read this.
Well, no, you misinterpreted what you just read. Now now it's my turn. Let's read it correctly now.
20 more minutes. 20 more minutes.
It's on the paper.
We can probably put some on there.
Yeah.
But look,
I knew you wanted to put some smoke on it.
yeah, it's good. You know how we get fired up. It says, but it is not as though the word of God has failed, for not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel. So you just read that and it went right over your head. All who descend from Israel are not of Israel. So just because you are a descendant of Israel but in your flesh doesn't make you of Israel. So it shows you it's not of the flesh, it's of God. Now how so? He continues. He says, and not all are children of Abraham because they are his seed. You just disqualified yourself because you're saying that you have to be saved as an Israelite, physically an Israelite, in order to take part in the promises in the covenant. It just said that just because you are a seed of Abraham does not mean you are of Abraham. You cut yourself, man. But you wanted to read that fast and skip over that. Let's keep going. It says here, so let me read that part again. And not all the children of Abraham, and not all are children of Abraham because they are of his seed. But through Isaac shall your offspring be named. This means, Paul tells us what this means. This means that it is not the children of the flesh who are the children of God. So just because you are Israelites by the flesh does not mean you're children of God. And this goes back, this goes to John 1, because you said it eliminates all the nations. This goes to John 1, what it talks about. To whoever believes in his name, verse 12, he gave right to be called sons of God, not being born of man or the flesh, but by the will of God. We just read. Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to be too long.
Because he just lied like shit and y'all ate it up.
I read what you read and you twisted this up,
I did
man.
not read it. Here's what
you didn't read
did.
it. I know you didn't read it.
First of all, I read the verse and I said, just because you're in Israel doesn't make you Israel. I said that. Did I not say that? Yes or no?
You're trying to say in Israel, the land, not
That's exactly what I'm saying.
It's descending of Israel.
So now let's go.
Come on,
when it
man.
says, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children. Why is that important? He want to clip this debate to 45 minutes because he want to go battle Arabs. I understand he want to run. It's all right. So now, but are the Arabs not Ishmaelites?
No.
Are they? The Arabs and Ishmaelites?
Not them. That's debatable.
But Arabs in general, are they not Ishmaelites?
Sure.
Are they sons of Abraham?
Yeah, some of them.
No, they're not. Not according to what we read.
Why not?
Because it says neither because they are the children of the flesh are they the children of, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children. Ishmael had Abraham had 8 sons. The children of the flesh are not the sons of Abraham. So Ishmael and the other 5 brothers, he had 7 sons. The other 5 sons that he had in Genesis, the 25th chapter, are not the sons or seed of Abraham. That's why it says, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Finished. Not just now. This ain't got nothing to do with Israel. He's eliminating all of the other sons that Abraham had. Remember, he said, that Ishmael might live. He gave that nigga a damn blessing and said, keep it moving. He said, but the promise, he gave. But now, because this is important, that is the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God, but the children of the promise. The promise was only given specific. So let's read what was given the promise. For this is the word of promise. At this time I will come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also conceived by one, our father Isaac. For the children being not yet born, neither having done good or evil, but that according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. Verse 12. It was said unto the elder, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated.
Right.
The Lord chose to give the promise to Jacob, not to Esau. And so that's who belongs the promise. So the other nations that you're talking about, but you still can't answer, what other nations did Ephraim become?
Okay, so this is what we are answering. So
You're not.
When you talked about children of the flesh, right? Because you're not because the ones who are born of the flesh are not the children of God. Abraham obviously had children of the flesh, correct? He had physical children. This is what we're talking about. Well, no, but you just said that this isn't talking about Israel, but it literally starts off with, just because you are descendants of Israel does not make you of Israel. It's
You know why?
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
The context is talking about Israel. You can't separate it. It's talking about
I'm
Israel.
not separating.
Well, okay, good. So then what you need to understand here is that it's making a distinction between you being born of the flesh, right? And then saying that you are a child of Abraham because you are related to him physically, versus being related to him because of your faith. You are a child of Abraham because you believed, not because of your how you're born. This is the whole context of this. This is why, if you keep reading down in Romans 9,
Keep going down.
Yeah, if we keep going down,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
oh, we gonna do it.
Don't do it.
We gonna do it.
Go ahead, do it.
Okay. Look, so this is what it says. We keep going down, right? In order to make known the riches of his glory, for vessels of mercy, which he has prepared beforehand for
Which
his
verse you at?
glory. Verse 23.
Okay.
All right. So now
I
verse
know where
24.
you're going.
All right,
Yeah,
good.
get right there.
Okay, good.
Right there.
Even us whom he has called, not from the Jews
Get the coffin.
only, but from the
Get the coffin.
Gentiles.
Get the coffin. Get the coffin.
As indeed he says in
the
Hosea,
coffin.
those who were not my people, I will call my people, and her who was not beloved, I will call beloved. He's not talking. Israel was beloved, right? Was Israel beloved?
Absolutely.
Was Israel his people?
Absolutely.
So the people that's not called his people, he's now calling his people
Absolutely.
because of Christ. This is the whole thing of this. Get ready to respond to that.
I can respond to that?
Yeah.
Hey, did y'all get that coffee? I started to bring a coffee. Remember I told you I was going to bring a coffee? We had the body bag and everything for him. Now, let me tell y'all something. Remember I told you, and I'm you close. You close to being a good debater. You close. Now, in Romans 9:24 that he just read, he said, even us whom he have called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles. Remember I told you, the word Gentile means nation, of which Israel is a nation. And you have to look at the context. And when you read the very next verse, it says, as he also saith in OC. He gonna leave after this, y'all. As he also saith in OC, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not my beloved. And then he asked me, Israel is his people, right? I said, yeah. Israel is beloved, right? He said, yeah. So he's going to call the people that was not his people. And I said, yes. Why did I say that? Because if it says, as it also saith in OC, you know what you got to go do? You got to go to Hosea. Let's see what Hosea said. Let's go to Hosea. Let's go. Hosea. So Hosea said, let's go Hosea 1:9. Then said, God, call his name Lo and Mine. Now, for backdrop time's sake, this when Hosea had so children of whoredoms, in reference to Israel, right? So then it says, then God said, call his name Lo and Mine, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. So now here's the Lord cutting off the children of Israel from being his people. Verse 10, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass in that place where it was said to them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Who was that talking to? Who was that said to?
In what land?
In verse 11, it says, then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together and appointed themselves one head, which is Christ, and they shall come up out of the land. So that verse that Paul is quoting is only talking about Israel. So the Gentiles in that verse is Israel.
Cap, what land is this? Cap, what land is this?
Stand like this for the whole rest
I
of the
bet. What land is this? What land is this that they're coming out of?
Well, you said it said. Well, the verse says, "In the place it shall come to pass that in the place where it says to them, ye are not my people."
Yeah, what place?
That's any place.
What place?
The places that they were scattered
So
to.
it's time out. So in the place that they're scattered to, in these places, they're not called the people of God. Is that correct?
Just like Paul is going to these
All right,
Gentiles,
so-
these Israelites in Rome,
so they're in
he's
a-
telling them
so
that
they're
they
in a-
are the children
So,
of God.
got you, but they're in a land where people are not called his people. This is the point. They're now scattered to where they're in a land where people are not the people of God because they're not Israelites, and now they're being called out of that land. And so in the context of Romans 9, he literally addresses this to Israelites and says, just because you are of Israel according to the flesh, that doesn't make you of Israel. That's the whole point. So again, you keep messing
This
up.
a prophet. Prophet's not the prophet. Listen, man.
Wait. Here's my question. Here's my question. Okay, because you're saying that you're talking about nations. You think you're identifying Israel as the nations.
The Lord did that.
Okay,
the Lord told Ephraim he would be nations. You don't know who they are. You already admitted you don't know who they are.
Okay, no worries. All right, do for me. Go to Isaiah 49.
Before we get to Isaiah 49, I don't have a problem going there. I just want to clean up what you tried to run from.
I addressed it directly.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
When I gave you Romans 9 and 24 and told you OC and said those are people, you tried to run back up.
I was in
But
Hosea again.
This prophecy was fulfilled for the children of Israel.
No, it's through the Gentiles.
No, it's not.
It's fulfilled in the Gentiles.
It doesn't say Gentiles are going to be called as people.
It literally says out of the land
This
who
just
are
said
people are not called.
in Hosea 1 and 9, the Lord said Israel would not be his people.
Isaiah 49 is going to cut this.
And then the very next verse, it says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea. And where it was said, ye are not my people, there ye shall be.
In what land?
So even if you want to argue, even if you wanted to try to argue that non-Israelites would be able to come back in, you have to agree that Paul is quoting Hosea 1 that's talking about Israelites being called back to God.
No, so that's part of it, which is
it's not part of it. That isn't.
Which is also part of Romans 11.
Okay, so where's the inclusion of other nations in Hosea 1?
Well, so this is what I'm saying here.
I ain't letting you get away.
Well, I already answered that.
No, where's the inclusion of other nations? I'm just asking my question. I'm going to be quiet.
Okay, go ahead.
Where's the inclusion of other nations in Hosea 1, 9 through 11?
Right.
I need that answer.
All right, thank you. So when you said that they're coming out of the land by which the people are not called my people, that's where he's talking about and says they will soon one day be called his people, which is what Paul does. He draws that in Romans 9, talking about the Gentiles. And
You're not answering my question.
I directly just answered
where
it.
in Hosea 1, 9 through 11,
I just
where does
referenced
it
it.
include other nations?
I just
I
referenced
ain't
it.
asked you to reference it. Read the verses and tell me where other nations are in there.
Because what you're doing is when you read Romans 9 and you took it out of context, I'm putting it in the
I didn't
context.
take it out of context.
You did, because you said
You
in Hosea.
inserted non-Israelites in Hosea 1, 9.
You're not letting me finish.
But you inserted that in there.
No, I didn't insert nothing. I
So
just read
show
it.
me where in Hosea.
I just read it.
So can you read Hosea 1, 9 through 11 and
Sure.
show me where non-Israelites is in there?
Sure, no worries. So Hosea 1, 9, and 11. And then we're going to go to Isaiah 49,
10
right?
more minutes,
Because
10
it's
more
going to show you the nations are non-Israelites.
And after this, I know you want to do Isaiah 49. So after I beat you out of this one, I'll beat you on Isaiah 49.
I'm going to let you down on
Damn
this one, man.
Right.
So look, yet, verse 9. And the Lord said, call his name, not my people, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, it shall be said to them, children of the living God, and the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint for themselves one head, and they shall go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Now here's the question: how is it? This is the answer. How is it that Israel is going to be as numerous as the stars? It's not through the flesh; it's through the faith in Jesus Christ. It's by that is you asked me, how does Hosea talk about other nations being grafted in? What I'm showing you is that it gives you the same. Come on, bro.
I said how in Hosea 1, but I didn't say that. You just repeated something.
You asked me where. You asked me where in Hosea 1, 9 through 11 does it talk about other nations?
Right.
That's what you asked
That's
me.
what I'm asking.
I'm literally answering to that. Literally answering to that. So when it says here that Israel will be as numerous as the stars, and will also be called out of the land from which they were called not my people, in the Gentile lands, and they will be brought out, and after they're brought out, they will be as numerous as the stars. This goes back to the covenant that God made with Abraham that says that you will be as numerous as the stars, your descendants, and Paul says it's not through the flesh, but it's through faith in Jesus. It's because of the faith in the Messiah that Abraham grew, not because of Israel, according to the flesh. This is why I'm talking about the nations here. See, you're trying to say that the nations are Israelites. I want to show you Isaiah 49:6 that shows that they're not.
I didn't say that the nations are Israelites. That's not what I said. I said the word nation or Gentile can be Israelites. What he's doing is called replacement theology.
No, I'm not.
There is no scripture in here, no verse in here in Hosea 1:9-11 that says that other nations are going to be joined. It clearly says that the children of Israel are not God's people, but they'll be called God's people. And when you make it not about a fleshly thing, in the same Romans the 9th chapter, verse 29, it says, and as Isaiah said before, except the Lord of Sabbath had left us a seed, we'd be like Sodom and be made like unto Gomorrah. So if the seed of Israel did not matter, or let's say if the seed of Israel,
that's a straw man,
but then where the other nations? Because what you want us to believe is that what you want us to believe is that when it said, what you want us to believe is that when it says in Romans about the children of Israel, children being called children of God, that this includes non-Israelites.
Yeah, you asked me where the nations are coming from.
They're not. No, I asked you where is other nations
coming from
in verses 1:9-11, and you didn't show that. It only shows by nation, Judah and Israel. Okay, that's all it shows.
So when Paul here applies this to the Gentiles,
he's not applying it. That's replacement theology.
He literally does. He says not of the Jews only, but of the Gentiles as well, because you're not an Israelite, because you're descended from Israel.
The context of that,
I'm trying to tell you where the nations are coming from.
No, that's not true.
Go to Isaiah 49:6.
You are absolutely using replacement theology,
because inclusion theology.
Inclusion, replacement. It's not Bible theology.
It is.
It ain't got nothing to do with the Bible.
49:6.
Let's go.
Thank you. So let's see if there's inclusion. Okay. So when he says here about the Messiah, right, the servant of the Lord, he says it's too light a thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to bring back the preserved of Israel. Who are the tribes of Jacob? Israel. Who's the preserved of Israel?
Israel.
All right, and that would be the remnant, right?
Well, if you're going to ask me a question, why is he saying Jacob and Israel twice if they're the same nation?
Well, because he actually qualifies it. He says the 12 tribes of Jacob and the preserved of Israel. Who are the preserved? Because there's a remnant that God always keeps for himself of Israel.
There's always, but they are Israel, right?
Yeah, they're all Israel.
Is that a pattern in the Bible? Yeah. I will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel. That ain't got nothing to do with preserved. That's just the way that he talks. Isaiah 14:1 Isaiah 14:1. I will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel. Is that not the same nation?
Yeah, but
I'm asking you, why is he saying it twice?
You have to bring that up. But what I'm saying here is right here in Isaiah.
Bring it up. It's the same context. Why is he saying it twice?
It's not the same context. I just told you. You have the 12 tribes, and then you have the preserved of Israel. Who are the preserved of Israel?
Okay, me personally, I don't want to say me personally. Me biblically, when it says,
no, it's you personally. You was right. You was right.
No, it's not. So when it says Isaiah 49, which verse was it? Oh, sorry, 6, right?
Yeah.
But I would like them to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel. If he have them reserved, he don't have to restore them. So they're already reserved to him.
Well,
the reason why he said doesn't matter, they're still reserved to him. Paul makes the same reference in Romans the 11th chapter more specifically. So now, if he has a pattern of saying Jacob and Israel, to you, I'm assuming the light to the Gentiles mean that the Gentiles get to come and join.
Not just that, my friend, but it's
5 more minutes.
But the salvation is going to them because look, the 12 tribes of Jacob, and you said that's Israel.
Yes.
And then he mentions the remnant or the preserved of Israel.
Right.
That's Israel. So Israel's accounted for in the first clause. Right. So then he says, but I will also
Make you a light
to the Gentiles or the nations.
And your position is that that's other nations, right?
It's non-Israelites because he already mentioned
absolutely Israelites.
But he just mentioned the Israelites. So if he mentioned all the 12 tribes, he mentioned the preserved of Israel. Then now I will make you a light to the Gentiles, so that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth. That's all.
So let's keep reading. Why stop at verse 6? Why we can't keep reading?
Well, I'm just asking. So who is that?
Wait, I'm going to answer. We're going to keep reading. Verse 7. Thus saith the Lord. First of all, if I start at I'll do that just for time's sake. Thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel. God damn it! Just start off right. They don't say the Redeemer of everybody. Say the Redeemer of Israel. And this is the very next verse.
He just said he's the Redeemer of everybody.
He did not say he's the Redeemer of them.
In verse 6.
The word Gentile, and this is why I asked you them questions. You can't say who the other Ephraim became. Even though the Lord said Ephraim would become many Gentiles.
Get away from this. How?
What you mean by how?
How?
Why don't you tell me how?
See,
can you tell me who the nations are?
The answer is right here.
Can you tell me who the nations are?
The rest of the world.
And also by Hosea 1, when he said, you're going to not be my people, that's how. And so Paul went there to be the light to the Gentiles based on them not being his people in Hosea 1. Based on Genesis 48 that we read, where Ephraim was told he was going to be many nations. What did that mean? Ephraim was going to get scattered and be called by many different nations. So the reason why Isaiah 49 says a light to the Gentiles, because that's what we are today when we go wake up Israelites. The very next verse in verse 7 says, thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel, and his Holy One, to whom man despiseth. So now if the other nations despise Israel, which the Lord is acknowledging, why would he save them? He says, to whom the nations abhorreth. Now the nations hate Israel. To servants of rulers, kings shall see arise. Princes also shall worship, because the Lord that is faithful and the Holy One of Israel shall choose thee. He's not choosing other nations.
He is. And so let me just break down what you just read. Because
2 minutes.
Got
2
you.
minutes.
So not every nation is against Israel. Not all the nations and the Gentiles are against Israel.
Psalms 83, every nation is against Israel.
Well, no, because what you have here, you have nations that are now coming into the belief through the Messiah. Yes, he literally just said here, the 12 tribes of Jacob. It's too easy.
That's your position.
It's too.
But you just said no. You said that some nations are not. Psalms 83 said the nations are confederate against Israel.
But not all of them.
That's cap.
Not all. So look, right here it says here. Hold on. Right here it says here. He says it's too light a thing. It's too easy, man.
To save Israel.
Too easy.
To save Israel.
To save just Israel. It's too easy. Let me land it. It's too easy for me to make you a light to bring. I'm sorry. Let me just read it. To be a light to my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to bring back the preserved of Israel. It's too easy for me to do that for you. So what I'm also going to do, to show you that I am God, is I'm also going to bring salvation to the rest of the world, because I didn't call them first. It's too easy. So what he's showing you, he's doing something different and more than what he did in the past. In the past, he worked with just Israel. And now he's going to expand it to the rest of the world. That's what he does. See, Israel is already accounted for. 12 tribes. You said that's Israel. The preserved of Israel. You said that's it. You did say that's Israel.
All right.
I said it's all Israel. Wait, can I respond to that?
Respond in 2 minutes and in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So respond.
The very next verse says that man despised Israel. The nation abhorred Israel. The servants and rulers and kings going to see Israel rise. Princes are going to worship, because the Lord is faithful and the Holy One of Israel shall choose thee. So if that's what the very next verse says, you can't make the Gentiles there. I'm going to go right into my 2 minutes. That's cool?
Do you want to go last, or do you want to
No, I'll go. You want me to go first?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll see
He
you.
won last time.
Okay, well, you can go first this time.
Okay, so go ahead.
I'll
2
end it
minutes,
right
2 minutes. Go ahead.
That's the closing.
Closing.
Because he got to run to the Arabs. They easier than me. They easier than me.
Real nigga.
All right, man. So, guys, just to wrap this up, man, we did 2 debates here. And let's give it up for everybody that participated, man. I mean this in all genuineness. This was fun. I had a good time with you, Cap, for real. Man, you sharpened me today, for real. So I appreciate that.
What?
Yeah, humility, man.
Oh, the humility.
Yeah, exactly. So just to close off, guys, what we got to is We saw, according to
brother.
Paul, both in Romans 9 and in Romans 11, we saw that salvation goes not just to the Jews, but also to the Gentiles. And so what the Hebrew Israelites have to do here is they have to also say that the Gentiles are also the Israelites. They're also the Israelites. You Israelite, you Israelite, you Israelite. But this is crazy because in the context, and I was surprised that he went to Romans 9, it literally told us that you're not of Israel just because you're born of Israel. You're not the seed of Abraham just because you come from Abraham. But it's by faith that you are a seed of Abraham. You are a Jew according to Romans 2. You are a Jew inwardly, not outwardly. You are circumcised inwardly, not outwardly. That's Romans chapter 2. We're in Romans. We should have brought that up. If we had more time, we would have went through it. But what we see here is we got Isaiah 49:6 that also deals with this directly. It names off Israel all together. The 12 tribes of Jacob and the preserved of Israel, but I will also make you a light to the Gentiles. These are non-Israelites now, so that my salvation may reach just Israel? No, so that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth. Not because Israel's scattered everywhere, but because there's nations that are everywhere that are going to come into the belief of the Messiah through his work, and they're calling him Lord of Lords, King of Kings, because he not just saved Israel, but he saved the Gentiles as well. Amen. It's your Paul.
Hey, I realize now why he running, because and if we would have did this battle first, he wouldn't even stay for the second round. He'd have been running out. The last verse in Isaiah 49:26 says, I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh. They shall be drunken with their own blood, as with sweet wine. And all flesh shall know. They say all flesh. They say some flesh. Right. It says, all flesh shall know that I am the Lord and thy Savior and the Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. You notice it doesn't have to say all of them, because if you see Jacob, if you see Israel, in some context, if you see Gentiles, it's the same exact thing. Dude, so what we learn here, before I go into it, first give all of y'all a hand. I appreciate y'all coming out. First time meeting the brother. It was a beautiful build, especially for two brothers. I've never engaged with him at all. And so for us to engage this way, it's definitely respectful. I hear you. Know what I'm saying? With that said, I whipped his ass. I just got to throw that out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Prove that, SHALAM. Prove that, SHALAM. I know it hurt. Why y'all ain't do that for him? Why y'all ain't do that for him?
Anyway, when it comes to this subject of Gentile, and I hope y'all go back and listen, Genesis 48:18, if it tells Ephraim he's going to become nations, if Hosea clearly says they're not going to be the children of God, they're going to be called the children of God, do not fall for replacement theology. You can't be a spiritual Asian, you can't be a spiritual nothing, so you can't make Israel just go away because you want to not be an Israelite. For all y'all blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, especially y'all, y'all, you Taino? How Dominican? How you not going to be an Israelite? But anyway, y'all would be better off being an Israelite, because when judgment comes, it's a wrap. But I appreciate y'all rocking with us, man. Until next time, shalom.
Until next time, man.
Can we get a picture together?